r/ask Reddit. Doctors of Reddit, what was your "this person is obviously fucking lying or faking" moment? Patient came in with seizures, non-specific weakness, lightheadedness, and numbness tingling in her hands and feet. She gets admitted because of some electrolyte issues, not related to the neuro symptoms. These were corrected later and symptoms persisted. Sure enough, on the second day she seizes. As soon as the diazepam is pushed, before the flush is even in, she stops seizing. This happens again 3 hours later. The third time, while she was seizing, we took her hand and tried to drop it on her face twice. Both times she moved her hand out of the way so it wouldn't smack herself in the face. We just stood there until she got tired of shaking. It took about 5 minutes. She left against medical advice a few hours later. Emergency medical services here. Had a patient start seizing in front of the cops after they were pulled over for possible drunk driving. We get there and patient is still on and off seizing. We get them on the stretcher and in the back of the ambulance. Surprisingly, the cop joins us. As I take their arm, the shakes start up again. So I tell them, yo, if you want this medication, I need you to stop so I can start, and I real quick. Patient stops to let me start the line, and once I say I'm done, they start back up. Patient comes in saying she has terrible abdominal pain, 10 out of 10. I say okay, and start to examine her. She immediately starts screaming the moment I touch her belly. But look, I've seen patients in terrible pain, and nobody has ever yelled in pain with their eyes open. She wasn't even tensing or anything. It was a really sad case though. She has a history of coming in saying she was pregnant when the urine and blood test was clearly negative. In one case she even tried to steal a pregnant patient's urine. She got caught pretty fast. She was on psych follow-up. Not sure what the diagnosis was, but my guess would have been Munchausen's. Anyway, we sent her home without pain meds. My second patient was a man with a chronic cough. Asked him, are you smoking? And he says no. Examines him, and there's a cigarette pack right in his breast pocket. I'm a dentist. We have a drug tracking program shared with any narcotic prescriber that tells me what patients have filled out what. I just need their name and OB. I get drug seekers every now and then with real or fake pain claiming they haven't been taking anything. Quick search shows me the truth. Most people don't know I can do this. Liar, liar, pants on fire. 3-year-old having tonsil surgery. I run through my usual pre-op evaluation, history, and physical. Parents ensure that she hasn't had anything to eat or drink since the night before. Get her back to the or drift her off to sleep, and when I go to place the breathing tube, she vomits basically solid, completely undigested scrambled eggs and aspirates. Surgery is cancelled. We take her to the ICU. Parents obviously fucking fed her breakfast less right before they came in. Confront the parents and they basically say they thought we were just being too mean not letting her eat for 8 hours. There is a reason we ask you not to eat for a period of time before surgery. It is not because we just like being dicks. Listen to us please. Had this alcoholic patient who has been in and out of the hospital for so long because of his liver problems. Every time you talk to them about stopping to drink, he says, I swear doctor I stopped drinking. Keep telling him that's not what his health results look like, but still he keeps insisting. Can't call a patient a liar, so when he got better I discharged him and wrote specifically what unknown types of alcohol in bold that he should stop. I'm a medical assistant. Had this teenage girl, probably 16, come in saying that her wrist was broken. Her mom was behind her rolling her eyes after every time she would tell me how bad it hurt. She then proceeded to flop it in an attempt to show me how bad it hurt. When she did that, she said it was clearly broken and she would need a cast. I said I would take her back and let the doctor do some x-rays and do their thing. The mother asked to talk to me outside of the room, and she told me her daughter's friend recently got a cast and her daughter was notorious for being overly jealous. I just responded by saying that if there were anything wrong, it would show up in the x-ray. Guess what? She didn't get a cast and threw a fit. Last I saw her was her crying and throwing a temper tantrum outside of the waiting room and being dragged out by her very embarrassed mom. Patient was referred from a mutual acquaintance as having an episodic tic in which he moved his right elbow to the side sporadically. He stated that he had injured it on a desk sometime earlier and that it now moved involuntarily. Despite performing a battery of tests in which no situation could be determined that would explain an involuntary sideways motion of the elbow, he maintained the story. It was obvious everyone that it was a cover-up story created when he tried to elbow someone he was standing beside as a sort of secret gesture, but for some reason he stuck with it. Even when confronted about it, he refused to acknowledge it. The real kicker is that on his way out of the office, he banged his right elbow on the desk and experienced a legitimate spasm. School nurse. Kid with asthma and multiple anaphylactic allergies, who I have had to call 911 on before, came in saying he had difficulty breathing, but no typical wheezing like I usually hear from him when he's having an asthma attack, etc. Suddenly he said I can't breathe, and slumped over. I could tell he was faking, because I have seen this kid in actual distress several times. He wasn't reacting to voice or shaking his shoulder, but a quick pain reaction check and his eyes opened right up. Then he slumped back down. Got a pulse ox on him, and he was at 100%, even higher than mine at 98. He finally got better and went back to class. I had a chronically ill patient under my service that would continually start to improve and then suddenly develop a new infection. She wasn't immunocompromised, so it was confusing why she kept getting sick right before it was time for discharge. That is until a nurse caught the patient injecting something into her own IV line. We searched her stuff and found a few syringes filled with some unknown fluid. The patient insisted she was just flushing her own IV line in order to make sure she was getting all her medications. So we lock up her belongings and lo and behold she rapidly improves and gets discharged. Corrections officer here. I spend a lot of time in ERS with inmates, so I've seen some pretty crazy stuff, but the best he's totally faking it story was from a guy who fell down the stairs in a cell block and said he couldn't feel his legs. I take him up to the hospital and the doctor is going through all sorts of tests. Guy says he can't feel anything. So finally, as the doctor is standing at the foot of the bed, he gives me a sly wink and then proceeds to quickly jab this dude's foot with a long metal needle. The inmate screams, pulls both his legs back towards him, and starts swearing at the doctor. Cool as a cucumber. The doctor then says, "Hallelujah. I'll get started on your discharge paperwork so you can get him back to the jail." The whole time I couldn't stop laughing. Patient presented with hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. We corrected the hypoglycemia during the first night, but patient had return of symptoms the next morning. We started a workup for diseases that cause you to do this and noticed an enzyme level that suggested patient was giving themselves medicine to drop their blood sugars. We then realized they had a lot of belongings in their room that they would neither let us examine nor remove. After more of these hypoglycemic events and a finalized workup, we confronted the patient with the results of our workup. All of a sudden they didn't have problems with their blood sugars getting low anymore. This happened to a colleague of mine. A young female police officer came into the hospital complaining of vaginal bleeding. My colleague asks her if she's pregnant and if there's a planned pregnancy. She claims she doesn't know if she's pregnant and can't remember her last period as it's often erratic. My colleague then proceeds to do a speculum exam, vaginal exam, and sees these hexagonal pills inside her vagina. When the patient was asked about it, she ran straight out of the office, leaving her underwear behind. Note, in my country abortions are allowed till 20 weeks in the event of social problems, and at any time, if the mom's life is at risk. This patient probably did it illegally at some unlicensed place. Someone came in the emergency room at 2 AM with eggplant stuck on his rectum. I assisted with history taking. He said he accidentally sat on it while he was pranking his friend, and it broke in two and the other half wouldn't come off. Here's the thing, hospital is not a judging place. I'm a labor and delivery nurse. A young woman, early 20s, came to our main hospital's emergency department with her mom complaining of stomach cramping. That is when she learned she was 9 months pregnant and in labor. Got sent over to the women's hospital, labor and delivery. This young woman continually denied ever having sex, oral, vaginal or otherwise. Even after delivery she claimed it was immaculate conception. Very weird vibes from both her and her mom. We asked questions like, have you ever woken up and not remembered the night before, and have you ever drank so much that you don't remember what happened, because we were worried about her having been raped or assaulted. But she said she has never drank or done drugs. It seemed like a young woman who was sexually active, but didn't want her mom to know. But her being college aged, it seemed weird to be embarrassed about that.